Welcome to Beyond 3D, a space where we explore new perspectives about consciousness, emotions, neuroscience, energy, healing, and the new paradigms transforming the way we live, work, heal, and create our reality. I am Flavia Sierra, creator of Quantum Neurointegration Mindfulness, and your guide on this journey beyond all ways of thinking and into a more conscious, connected, and empowered way of living. Because the world is changing, and many times the answer we are searching for cannot be found from the same level of awareness where the problem was created. So together, let's explore what exists beyond fear, beyond limitation, and beyond the old 3D paradigms. This is Beyond 3D. Hello, hello, hello. I'm so happy you are here with me for another episode of Beyond 3D. In the last episode, we talked about why it is often so difficult to stay present. We explored how the state of our nervous system affects our ability to enjoy what we are living, and we introduced a word that we will continue using in our conversations for the rest of the podcast, and this is energy. And that is exactly what I thought it would be beautiful to continue from there. Because regardless of what each person believes, there is something all of us have experienced over and over again. And I bet that after finishing this podcast, you will agree with me. We are constantly communicating much more than we think. Maybe this has happened to you or to anyone you know. Someone you love calls you, and before they even finish their first sentence, you already know something is wrong. Nobody has told you what happened yet, but something in their voice, in their silence, or in the way they speak lets you feel that they are worried, sad, tired, or that something is wrong. And what you sense, what you feel before hearing the whole story is their energy. Without even saying anything different, it can still be felt. Or think about something even more common. You receive a text message that simply says, okay. The word is the same, but depending on the conversation before, how you are feeling emotionally, or the intention behind it, that okay can feel completely different. It's not only how you feel, because sometimes you feel really good, you are emotionally perfect, you are positive, optimistic, you have good news, but there's something that you feel there after that okay, and in that moment you know something is happening in the other side. So then you begin to realize that we do not communicate only with words. I know that every human being has lived this experience at some point in their lives. And why? Because we also communicate with emotions, with intention, and with the energy we bring into every conversation. Even if we don't have a conversation, just our presence brings energy. And maybe you have experienced the opposite as well. Maybe there were times when you said, I'm fine, when you really weren't. We Latins, I don't know in other cultures, but we Latins were, at least in my generation and generations before, we were taught to respond whenever somebody asks us, how are you? And we'd say, fine, we're fine, even though we weren't. So even though you try to act normally, the people who know you could tell something is happening. Because your words were saying one thing, but the energy behind them was saying something else. The energy is literally that cloud around us, over us, that travels and goes with us everywhere, and people can feel it. For a long time, we were taught that what mattered most was what we did. Later, at some point in the story of humanity, we started paying attention to what we thought. And little by little, we have begun to discover that how we feel and the inner state from which we live also matter. That's why all of my work today is dedicated to inner state, because there is where the experience of life starts or begins. I think that's the best word in English. Because what you think influences how you feel. What you feel influences your energy. And the energy you carry influences the way you experience life, how others perceive you, and how you influence those around you, even if you don't know it. It's not a matter of deciding to do it. It's not a matter of choosing to do it. It just happens. Until you have that conscious or that awareness big enough so that you can stop doing that. But that's some other podcast theme. So we don't have to go into complicated ideas to see this. Think about a day when you woke up rested, peaceful, and excited. The same responsibilities probably felt easier to handle. Conversations flowed better, decisions seemed simpler, everything was really great. Now think about another day when you woke up worried, exhausted, or with your mind full of unfinished things. The same situations probably felt completely different. And I would remove the probably, because I could bet you feel different. The people were the same, your responsibilities were basically the same, but your experience was completely different. And depending on how you keep living day after day, your days, weeks, months, and sometimes even years can become either a vicious circle or a virtuous one. So my purpose in life, with my courses, with my programs, with my method, with my podcast, with my social media postings, is precisely to help, to contribute, to have a virtuous one. And that shows us something interesting. We often believe that our experience depends only on what happens outside of us. But the truth is that it also depends on the inner state we bring into every experience. Think about a conversation with someone you love. If you arrive present, calm, and willing to listen, that conversation will probably be very different than if you arrive tired, worried, or mentally somewhere else. The topic may be exactly the same, but the experience changes because you arrive differently. The same happens with words. You probably met people who use very simple words, very humble people, yet their presence makes you feel heard, understood, and supported. And on the other hand, you have probably experienced conversations where someone said all the right words, very professional, very amazing way of communicating, but something inside you still felt distance, tension, lack of connection, or even lack of trust. It's like you don't believe them. Because words matter, of course, but the intention behind them matters too. And this reminds me of something beautiful I have always kept in my mind since my children were little. When a small kid falls down, they often do not cry immediately. They first look at you, they watch your expression, they listen to the tone of your voice, they sense how you are reacting. And depending on what they perceive in you, they respond one way or another. Before understanding words, they are already perceiving much more than words. I always tell people that kids learn from what they see, not from what they hear. They are always watching. And by the way, in moments like this, the automatic pilot or the autopilot that influence that's the moment when the autopilot patterns begin. So that may influence future experiences for the rest of your life sometimes. The interesting thing is that adults continue doing exactly the same thing, maybe in a more sophisticated way, but we still perceive much more than words. We read gestures, silence, tone of voice, and emotional states. We perceive presence and we perceive energy. The thing is that we don't pay too much attention to it because our heads and our attention is somewhere else. And that is not strange or mystical, as some people still believe. It is deeply human. It is part of who we are. It's part of our design and part of the many abilities we naturally have. And after hearing all this, maybe one part of you is thinking, okay, I understand that my thoughts, emotions, and energy are connected, but what can I actually do with this information? Right? What does it matter? And I love that question because at the end of the day, it's not only about understanding, as we talked before in other episodes, it is about learning how to live differently in a way that brings you more peace, more joy, less stress, and better results, sustainable results with less effort. And one of the first things you can do is simply begin to observe. This is my lesson, recommendation, observation. That sounds redundant, but that's the first recommendation I'm going to do. Remember, I always like to start with very simple steps. Not trying to change everything immediately, not fighting your thoughts, not trying to be positive all the time. Just observe. Observe what? Observe how you feel after certain conversations. Start observing yourself. Notice which people help you feel peaceful and which ones constantly leave you drained. Probably by now you already know the answers. Notice the thoughts that come back again and again. Notice how your energy changes when you sleep well, when you rest, or when you allow yourself to slow down. Give yourself those permissions. Sometimes people don't do that because something happens when you observe with awareness. You recover your ability to choose. You start becoming you, the real you, again. And then you can begin paying more attention to the way you speak to yourself. Because many times you are kinder to the people you love than you are to yourself. You push yourself too hard. You speak to yourself from guilt, pressure, criticism, intolerance, and perfectionism. And you know what? Little by little, that inner dialogue becomes the emotional environment in which you live every day. And you do not even notice it. And there is something else I love to remember. Not everything deserves the same amount of attention and energy. And not everyone, though. Sometimes you end up giving an enormous amount of energy to people or situations. In the case of situations that have not happened yet. That's worse. To imaginary conversations, to scenarios that exist only inside your mind. Attention is energy. And whatever you consistently give your attention to begins to grow in your experience. You feed it. And sometimes you feed with your energy things that you don't like, and you are the one making them grow. If your energy goes into thoughts, words, and actions that make you feel good and bring you life, you feel energized. So bring it on, be my guest, bring them all. But if your attention stays on thoughts, words, or actions that constantly make you feel bad, sooner or later you will end up exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. Think of it, and I bet that you already know this experience, both of them. The only thing is that now you are aware of them. That is why learning to direct your attention is also learning to direct your energy. And when you direct your energy, you literally can have in life everything you want. Choosing consciously where you place your attention is choosing where you place your energy. Where you invest it or where you waste it, because you cannot do both at the same time. And this is not about being happy all the time. It is not about ignoring uncomfortable emotions or pretending everything is fine. It is about developing a more conscious relationship with your thoughts, your feelings, and the energy you bring into every experience. And little by little, you begin to discover something great. Your presence communicates, your thoughts communicate, your emotions communicate, your words communicate, everything communicates. And perhaps one of the deepest invitations you can give yourself is to start paying attention, not only to what you say, but also to how you feel, the intention behind your words, and the energy you bring into every experience. Because when you begin living with greater awareness, something starts to change. Not only does the way you relate to others change, the way you relate to yourself and to life changes too. And maybe that is part of what it means to look beyond 3D. To understand that you are not only what you do, you are also what you think, what you feel, and the energy you carry with you. And when you learn to live from a more conscious, loving, and balanced place, more peace, more harmony, and more well-being begin to appear in your everyday experience. Just like magic. Just like that. I can promise you. And not only that, you often become healthier, build better relationships, and experience greater success in your work or business. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Allow whatever resonated with you to continue working within you during the next few days, and notice what happens when you begin paying attention not only to your words, but also to your thoughts, your emotions, and the energy you bring into every experience, and the energy people brings around you in your experiences. And start observing. I send you a big hug, and I look forward to our next episode as we continue exploring new paths of awareness and conscious creation together. In the meantime, I'll see you at our next coffee, tea, matcha, or maybe even a glass of wine together. Bye-bye. Thank you for sharing this space with me. Take a moment today to reflect on what resonated with you, and maybe ask yourself, what would change in my life if I started seeing reality from a different level of consciousness? I am Flavia Sierra, and this is Beyond 3D. Until next time.